I've worked with a lot of current and former dental school admissions officers from a lot of the dental schools across the US, including the #1 ranked dental school over the past 6 years. And what I've learned is there's a lot of things in their opinions and perspectives that differ from the opinions and perspectives of pre-dentals when they think about the dental school admissions process. I'll tell you what I mean by that and the different things I've learned from them through working with them for so many years in this video. If you're new here, I'm Dr. Andrew, the founder of Predenting Dental School Admissions Advising, where we work one-on-one with pre-dentals to help them get accepted to dental school and to their dream dental schools. I'm also the only dental school admissions advisor in the world who has served on the AADSAS Advisory Board, helping run the dental school application. The first thing that I've learned from working with so many admissions officers is that each school has their own admissions criteria. And what I mean by that is things like the weight that they place on your DAT, GPA, and even the sections or subsections within the DAT vastly differ. And what also differs is the type of candidate that each dental school is looking for. So each dental school has different criteria that they look for, and that criteria can widely vary. I'm talking about things like the factors that they consider when interviewing or accepting students, how much the interview weighs, how much they care about things like your personal statement or letters of recommendation, or even certain experiences, or even whether you're an in-state or out-of-state student. What I mean by that is that a lot of these dental schools will actually bias against out-of-state students. And some schools go so far as to not even accepting a single student who is an out-of-state resident. For example, East Carolina University is an example of this. Every single pre-dental who applies to East Carolina University who's an out-of-state student applies to their school, pays them a couple $100s for their application fees, and then immediately gets their application rejected because East Carolina University is one of these schools that don't accept students from out of state. There's so many nuances and intricacies like this that different admissions committees factor when deciding who they're going to really screen, interview, and accept. And every dental school has their own criteria. And learning about each of these different nuances and intricacies of all these different dental schools has really helped me with school selection. And what I see on average when a pre-dental works with me one-on-one and they come to me with a school list is that they're typically applying to somewhere between 3 and on the high end it's going to be 10 dental schools where they almost have no shot or are going to be auto-rejected for one of these reasons. And they don't even know that because it's a reason that's a small intricacy or a small nuance about that school's admissions criteria. And that ends up costing them anywhere between $600 to about $2,000 if we didn't go through school selection together. So make sure that you understand those nuances and intricacies of all the dental schools that you're applying to. And if you are looking for help with school selection or just the application admissions process, that is something that I can help you with and be your mentor if it's a good fit. And that's something that a lot of admissions officers vouch for and really recommend. It's getting help with your dental school application. For example, at an American Dental Education Association meeting, there was an admissions officer who's giving a presentation and giving some tips and advice to pre-dentals. And one of his biggest points that he emphasized was get help. And really get help with your application and the admissions process. Find an advisor or mentor who can help you on this path because it's challenging. There's a lot of nuances and your future depends on you knowing this process well. And it's very difficult to win at a game or process where you don't know all the intricacies or nuances. This is something that I've helped hundreds of pre-dentals with in terms of helping them get accepted. I'm sure it can help you as well. The second thing that I learned from working with so many admissions officers is it's rarely about quantity, but it's really about quality. So a lot of the admissions officers who I've worked with and spoken to have really emphasized how much they value depth over breadth. And I'm referring to activities and experiences in this case. So for example, an applicant with just a few meaningful or like multi-year experiences, or even one significant experience, think like a research project, is often going to be in a lot better of a place than a pre-dental candidate who has a lot of different experiences, but doesn't have much depth to any of them. Whether that's the amount of hours or the impact made through those experiences, depth is what matters. Think quality, not quantity. Sure, it can always help you to have quantity as long as there's quality, but really prioritize quality instead of going out and joining a bunch of clubs or extracurriculars or a bunch of different volunteer organizations and then spreading yourself thin and not having that depth. That being said, it's also important to strike a balance. So don't just have one shadowing experience and one research experience and one volunteer experience. You do need to have enough experiences and activities to show the admissions committee about yourself. And what I mean by that is it's a great idea to join some clubs or extracurriculars that you're genuinely passionate about. The third thing I learned is that GPA and DAT scores open the door, but the holistic review is really what decides whether you're gonna get an interview and an acceptance. And what I mean by that is that strong academic metrics will get noticed. It's always to your benefit to have a higher GPA and DAT score, but admissions committees are not going to accept you just based on an amazing or perfect DAT score and GPA. The reality is that there are thousands of applicants to each of these dental schools nowadays, and there's really only about 80 or so seats at most dental schools. So admissions officers are looking for really well-rounded candidates who convey their story in their application in a way that really resonates and aligns with what admissions officers are looking for. A GPA and DAT is not gonna get you there. It's your application materials. And I also know that because I've had so many pre-dentals with 4.0 GPAs and 99th percentile DAT scores who message me, email me, call me about how they end up getting 0 acceptances on acceptance day. And then I work with them on their personal statement, their application materials, their interview skills, the way they're telling their story and conveying their candidacy throughout their application materials. And then they get a crazy number of acceptances, and oftentimes they're dream schools. And it blows their mind. But the truth is, with so many applicants who have high GPAs and high DAT scores, you need so much more than that nowadays. At the same time, low stats don't automatically disqualify you if you're able to convey your candidacy throughout your personal statement, your secondary essays, your application questions, and the interview in a way that really resonates with what admissions officers are looking for. If you're looking for help with any of that, that's what my team and I specialize with, working with you one-on-one to give you the admission strategies and really the secrets that can help make your application pop and stand out, and working with you to convey that in a way that best aligns with admissions officers. It's exactly what I did for Michelle, who ended up getting 5 acceptances. If you're finding this video helpful, give it a like and subscribe for more pre-dental content. And let's go on to point number 4, which is letters of recommendation matter a lot more than you think. With so many thousands of pre-dentals applying to dental school and so many people having similar GPAs, DATs, even activities, the application materials are definitely what helps you and is going to make you stand out amongst the crowd. Your personal statement, your secondaries, your activity descriptions, your application questions I mentioned, but also your letters of recommendation. And the letters of recommendation are something that really provides an objective and third-party analysis of you. And that's why they matter so much. So make sure that the people and the professors, the dentists who you ask for letters of recommendation are there to give you a really outstanding letter of recommendation that really makes you shine. Don't just ask professors who you got a good grade in their course in for a letter of recommendation. Instead, ask professors who you went to office hours with, developed a relationship with, participated in their class in, and maybe stuck around after class to ask questions to, who know you on a more personal level and have more to talk about than just the fact that you may have gotten an A minus, B, whatever it is in their class. Really make sure those letters of recommendation are great. Another point with that is if you are getting a letter of recommendation from a dentist, really try to make sure that's a dentist who you've actually spent a lot of time with. So if you just shadowed a dentist for 8 hours or 10 hours, even 20 hours, I would say that that letter of recommendation is typically not going to be as strong as a letter of recommendation from a dentist who has spent so much more time with you and gotten to see your professionalism, the way you interact with patients, the way you communicate, and all those other great things about you as a person that usually comes out the more time you spend with someone. The 5th thing I've learned from working with admissions officers is that your interview performance is often going to be the tiebreaker and really determining factor of whether you get accepted or rejected. The interview is your chance to showcase what separates you from everyone else who's academically qualified and has the right experiences, got the great letters of recommendation, and all that. And I've had a ton of qualified pre-dentals and sometimes their parents reach out to me after they had 4 to 6 interviews but were rejected to every school despite having that good GPA, the good DAT, the good extracurricular. They were good at public speaking. They were people's people. They were extroverts. Sometimes they're introverts. It really doesn't matter. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter what your situation is. Your dental school interview is probably going to be like nothing that you've experienced before. And it's a make it or break it moment. So you need to know that that interview is super high stakes. It's what your future and your acceptance and kind of your career trajectory and the school you attend depends on. So whether you're someone who's a reapplicant and you want to improve your interview skills, or if you're someone going into this process for this first time, I highly recommend getting professional dental school specific interview coaching. That's something my team and I can help you with, including having former dental school interviewers who actually sat on admissions committees on the other side of the table interviewing pre-dentals, deciding who gets accepted and who gets rejected, work with you through. And that's what has led to such crazy success and insane acceptances for so many of my pre-dental students, like Malik, who unfortunately wasn't able to convert any of his interviews his first time applying, but then after we worked together, he got multiple acceptances and was even accepted to one of the most competitive and prestigious programs, not only in the US, being the second best dental school in the US, but also in the entire world. And interview coaching is how you go from wherever you are with your current interview skills to making sure that you are confident, you present in the best way, and that you go out and ace your interview. Another thing I learned from working with admissions officers is to ignore admissions deadlines. Yeah, that might sound controversial, but the reality is that a lot of dental schools post their admissions deadlines for sometime in December, January, or February. But the reality is that dental schools really interview students in August, September, October, November, and give out acceptances in typically early or the middle of December. And what that means is when you apply to dental schools in December, January, or February, close to when those dental schools say their deadlines is, a lot of those dental schools have probably already filled their entire class with students and already have a wait list. And the chance of getting accepted is super, super slim. The dental school admissions process is on a rolling basis, meaning the sooner you submit a high quality application, the better chance you have of getting accepted. Now that doesn't mean just submit an application as early as possible. The same high quality application submitted sooner will do better than that same high quality application submitted later. So instead of thinking about admissions deadlines, think about the rolling admissions process and submitting as soon as you reasonably can. That's also one of the things that my pre-dental client Ali emphasized in his testimonial after getting 4 acceptances, including to both of his dream schools, emphasizing how important it is to get started early.